Hello internet friends, I'm Vin Bada Bing. In this video I'd like to share my experience and highlights for my first high performance driver's education days. For the rest of the video I'll probably just refer to them as track days. If you're interested in just seeing the in-car footage of my best flying lap, feel free to click here to skip to that portion of the video. This was my first experience on track in a car, specifically my 2003 Chevy Corvette Z06. I have been on track 2 times before on my motorcycle for advanced rider's education. As a side note, if you're interested in getting into motorcycles, you should really consider taking a free basic motorcycle safety foundation course on a borrowed motorcycle and see if you like it. Some places you can even get your license at the end of that. And if you happen to live in a state like Pennsylvania that has higher levels of rider education for free, you can end up taking some classes on track like I do. In fact, I have another free motorcycle training day at Pitt Race at the end of July. The organization that I went through is called Auto Interests. Overall, I'm very happy with my experience. As this was my first time, I was in the aptly named First Timers group. They have skill groups based on experience ranging from first timers through a couple of novice levels, through intermediate, advanced, and ultimately instructor. I learned about auto interest from the guy that would ultimately be my instructor, Mike. I work with his wife, and so we naturally got in contact when I found out that she and her husband were both car people, and Mike helped me to actually prepare my car for the track event. There wasn't much that I did just for my first event. As part of this, I ended up changing out to some Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02 tires. I used some Motul 660 as some high-temp brake fluid. I also installed PowerStop Track Day track pads, and finally I also put on a set of tow hooks from After Dark Speed. Fortunately, I did not have to use the tow hooks as part of this event. My instructor Mike also has a Corvette, specifically a 2015 C7 white Corvette. I arrived bright and early Friday morning, unloaded all of the gear that I brought for the event, including all of my camping equipment, and went through tech inspection at right around 7 a.m. Fortunately, everything looked good with my car, so I did get my helmet sticker, the sticker saying that my car had passed tech inspection, as well as my racing numbers for the event and my wristband so I could get on track. I set up my tent near Mike's camper. I already had some camping gear, so this made the most sense for me. Since this was my first event, it was a great way for me to get me, my car, and my limited gear to the track and avoid having to pay for a hotel room for the couple of nights. All HPDE events and other organized track events that I'm aware of start each day with a driver's meeting. They went over the general schedule for the day, the flags and their meanings that they would be using, as well as explain to us the passing zones and rules based on our skill groups. After the driver's meeting and introduction to Mike, it was time for the First Timers group to go to car control. Car control was set up in a parking lot using some cones. There was a starting area that had a 90-degree turn immediately after the start, followed by some slaloms, and finally a braking box. The purpose of car control was to see how the car reacted and felt when you're getting close to the edge of the limit of grip or beyond that. The 90-degree turn was a nice way to start with a little bit of a oversteer and fishtail, if you will. The slaloms really helped to feel the balance of the car shifting, and you could kind of increase the speed as you went through. And then the braking box was ultimately to see if we could time our braking points optimally to end the front axle in line with a set of cones. We went one at a time, and after each run we got some very good individualized coaching, things to work on for the next time through. We had about 20 minutes total, so it turned out to be about 6 runs per person. After we finished with car control, we went back to the paddock to prepare for our first time on the full track with just the First Timers group. In the morning, the First Timers had their own run group. The first 2 laps were under a standing yellow flag so that we could learn where the flagging stations were and start to get some heat into the tires and brakes, and more importantly, get into the right mental space for the rest of the session. Fortunately, Mike had an intercom system, so we were able to communicate in the car without having to scream over the engine or wind noise, and he was able to continue to provide good instruction for me, and I was able to confirm or ask questions if they came up as we were driving in the session. In the afternoon, the first timers were combined with the novice solo and novice instructed participants into one total run group. Because there were so many more cars on track, there was a lot more traffic that we had to deal with. This was a great opportunity for me to practice giving and receiving point buys. Basically, if there was a car that was faster behind, you would tell them which side of the car you wanted them to pass on, allowed them to get by in the designated passing zone while backing off the throttle a little bit and still maintaining speed so you could continue with flow of traffic after they passed you. Throughout the sessions, Mike had tons of great feedback. As part of Auto Interest, they have a learning system where the instructor can mark off different skills that the driver is trying to learn. At the end of my 2 days, I did have all of the skills marked off in my first timers group, and I look forward in the next one to being able to bump up into the novice instructed group and start moving through those next tasks. The only negative for the weekend was the weather, which is obviously out of anybody's control. On both Friday and Saturday, there was a session towards the end of the day that had to be canceled, as well as the open session for all groups to run together due to lightning in the area. Obviously, we want to keep the flaggers and drivers and all personnel around safe, especially when there's lightning within the area. I do have to give Auto Interest and Pitt Race credit for their adaptability throughout the day. On the second day, towards the end of the morning session, we did have a storm roll through, including lightning, so they had to cancel the first timers run group after we were already on grid, ready to go on track. However, they made this up because they shifted the lunch period forward by an hour. We waited the storm out while it was raining, and then ultimately the storm passed. We were able to shift our group, our session, to a later period right after lunch, and we were able to get our runs in. Overall, I had so much fun. I feel like I learned a lot, but I recognize I have a lot more to learn. Since this is my first year getting into track driving, I did spend money on my car, some basic modifications, and the event at Pitt Race. However, this season I do not plan on actually attending any other tracks. Although, I'm very excited that Auto Interest will be back at Pitt Race in August of 2025. I do plan on attending at least a couple more days. If you happen to also be going to that event, feel free to find me in my car, stop by, say hi, and we'll have a quick chat. The people were great, the cars were awesome. It was an overall wonderful experience. As a Corvette fan, it was so cool to see so many Corvettes, including some newer C8s. In fact, check out this festive picture that I got of my red C5, Mike's white C7, and our paddock neighbor's blue C8. Happy 4th of July! If you have any feedback for my videos or my driving, while considering that this is my first track event, please leave that in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like. And now I'd like to show some in-car footage from one of my best laps in the last session, which was the only session that I ended up recording at this event. For posterity, my lap time in this clip was 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Happy 4th of July, and enjoy the ride along.